Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
Hey, Craig.
It's all on you. It's all on me. Can't you see? It's all on you. It's all on me. You and me. Can't you? It's all on you. It's all on me.
Hey, Craig. Right or wrong, we don't care. Win or lose, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care.
Hey Jeff, so if I told you, both WSU basketball teams have played 3 games since we last recorded. If I told you one of the teams had a negative 49 point differential and one of the teams had a negative 18 point differential, which team do you think would be 2-1 and which team do you think would be 0-3 in that stretch?
Yeah. Yeah, sports are funny. Sports are funny. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, and then, while our listeners think about that quandary, like, this is Podcast versus Everyone, episode 159. I'm Craig Powers. With me, as always, is Jeff Newser. Jeff, what the fuck, man? Why we were so hyped last week. What?
Yes, we were.
What?
Apparently,
why
the team was too. Yeah. So, I mean, what happened against Arizona wasn't entirely surprising to me. I mean, we talked about how Arizona's really fucking good. Like, they're insanely good. Like, they're probably the best team in the conference in, at least 5 or 6 years. Like, the last time the conference had a 1 seed was Arizona in 2015, I think. 2014, I think, back-to-back years. Those 2 years they had 1 seeds, and so it's been quite a while. Ken Palm's got them ranked the number 2 team in the country. I think they're also number 2 in net, like, by virtually any objective measure, they're, one of the top teams in the country. And, in a non-Gonzaga year might be number 1. So they're really, really good. And you saw why in the game. They're athletic. They play fast. They stifle you on defense and they attack you relentlessly on offense. And, if you make one mistake, like a blown layup that would have cut the game to 2, you make that one mistake and then, all of a sudden
seconds later,
you miss the layup. They're coming back and they make a layup in transition, and you got, all of a sudden instead of a 2-point game, it's a 6-point game, and then they go on a little run and the game's over. And, you really do have to play kind of a perfect game against them in order to have much of a chance. We played a good game, I thought. Did not play a perfect game, and that was that. Kind of my favorite stat that I'm using right now to try and, explain to people just how flipping good Arizona is, I say, okay, so they've lost 1 Pac-12 game, and that was to UCLA on the road. And they've won every other Pac-12 game that they've played this year. And all of those games they've won by 9 or more points. Every single one.
Yeah.
And that's just 1 game, by the way. The rest of them were all double digits. So, they are just, running over people in this conference. Playing them to 12 points is nothing to hang your head about. So that was fine. And then of course Saturday happened. So,
well, in Arizona, it was really given the pace the game was played at, which is more to Arizona's liking than WSU's liking it, because Arizona was able to push a lot more because WSU couldn't make any shots. They were basically at 1 point per possession. Arizona, which is a very good offense.
Yep.
That was one of their worst per possession performances of the year. And that's with WSU not being able to make a shot on the other end and giving them many opportunities to run out and still to hold them to one. Very impressive. It's just story of the weekend and the Monday is the offense. And the massive amounts of missed shots. Arizona, 9 turnovers, 12.7% turnover rate. Arizona had a 25% turnover rate, doubled the amount of turnovers. I had said when I answered some questions for Desert Swarm, the Arizona SB Nation blog. They asked me to give a prediction or whatever, and I said, well, to win, WSU needs to turn them over 22 to 25% of the time, and they need to hit 40% of their threes. Well, they got the 25% turnovers. If they would have hit 40% of their threes, that would have been 5 more threes. They would have won the game. So that's really what they needed to do. They played the defense they played the defense that they needed to do to win. They just didn't get the offense. And that broken fucking record there this season, right? So that was a big bummer. There wasn't. Mohamed Gay had a nice start to the game. They really shut that down pretty quick. Arizona did. There's just no bad play. Like we said it in the preview, there's no bad player on that team. No bad player on that rotation. They're just so hard to deal with because everyone can hurt you. Everyone can play defense. It's just they're so big at every position. Their shortest player is a 6'3" point guard, but then they always put a 6'5" or a 6'6" two guard next to him. So they're so goddamn good. And then UW found that out on Saturday. UW played about as perfect as you could for 10 minutes. and had a 14-point lead. Yeah. They had a 14-point lead, and they ended up trailing by 9 at halftime, losing the game by 30, 28, something like that.
Yeah. I think Arizona went on a 19-0 run at one point or something like that.
And they do it so quick. And that's what you said. WSU had a chance to cut it to Bamba stole the ball, Bamba stole the ball, dribbled down the court, had a layup, missed it. Flowers had an easy tip in, kind of whiffed on it.
Bobbled it or something.
It was
I still can't tell you what happened on that. I'm honestly not sure.
Literally less than 4 seconds later, Mathurin is laying the ball in. It's a 4-point game. 2 minutes later, it's a 10-point game. Yeah.
It's you got to play perfect, more or less. At least we do.
You can't miss a layup. That's for sure.
You can't miss a layup.
Can't miss fast break layup.
Yeah. And you can't miss open threes or very many of them. And we missed a bunch. And
yeah.
So.
And also we had F.A. Abagidi shot 5 threes in that game, which.
Yeah.
That's a product of Arizona.
If you're Arizona, then you just go, okay, you can have those. Take your chances with them, and I mean if you're Arizona or really anybody at this point, I mean, FA shooting a 3 is not a that's something that you welcome. I think for 2 reasons. One is he hasn't proven really that he can punish you from out there consistently. And then beyond that, if he's, 20 feet from the basket, he's not getting an offensive rebound either. Yep. So, that's, an FA3 is probably a pretty good result for most teams. And
by the way, FA shot all 3 of WSU's free throws in that game.
Yeah. I mean, I think that shows you just the problem that Arizona presents, particularly for our team with our miniature guards. It's like, how you going to draw a foul? How are you going to get to the rim? Flowers and Roberts were just, they just, what are you going to do? These guys aren't 7 foot stiffs. They're 7 foot, athletic shot erasers. They are.
And there were only 22 fouls called in this game, period.
Yeah.
So it wasn't.
It's just hard to draw any contact. Arizona doesn't have to foul you. It's hard to get really any kind of advantage. As you alluded to, I mean, they were going to have to hit a lot of jump shots. You focused in on the threes, but the reality was they were going to have to hit other jump shots too. And they just didn't hit enough of them. So there was nothing about it that discouraged me. If anything, I was like, okay, yeah, well, that's, I was hoping for a win and that would have been really cool. But also this was probably the most likely outcome was, losing the game by, somewhere between like 7 and 12 points or 8 and 12 points or something like that. And, and so you just, you flush it and move on and go beat Arizona State, right?
Yeah. Well, there's something about the way WSU, Arizona State's not a bad defense. Like they're top 100.
No, they're pretty okay. Yeah.
But they really, you given 2-game sample. Obviously, Arizona State's offense struggles against WSU's defense, but WSU's offense also struggles against their defense. If you're given, what they were 0.71 in the 51-29 win, and in this game they're 0.86 points per possession. It's tough to beat a team twice when you're that low, no matter the quality of the team. And really, you kind of pried out of shot quality account the shot quality numbers for this.
That's what I was hoping for. I was like, I know that stuff's not publicly available, but if I maybe tease it, maybe we can get it. And we got it. So, yeah, explain.
So, now WSU's shot quality number for this wasn't good.
No.
And they pretty much, I think they were expecting 58 points. They got 55. So it's like pretty much in the range. The other side of it is Arizona State's quality of shots, where they hit 18 of 33 on 2-pointers, and WSU 8 of 26 on 2-pointers. The shot quality, especially those 2-point shots, were not all that different. But Arizona State was hitting every 12-footer, every 10-footer, every runner. Everything was falling.
Floater.
Every floater. As you said in your story, they hit 7 of 9 on jump shots down the stretch. So they were just hitting that lane. And WSU was, they were kind of giving them that. They were playing that zone, and they were giving them that soft spot. And they were just hitting every shot. And you don't typically, at best you expect them to hit half of those. If they miss 3 of them, that's a game right there.
Yep. It was the difference in the game. We missed some 2s, they hit some 2s, and you lose by 3. I mean, it was so frustrating.
It's frustrating because they force. So WSU has the advantage on the glass. That much better offensive rebounding. They turn. They force Arizona State into almost 30% turnover rate.
Yep. And
I mean, WSU's a little too high. That's in big part because of, two of your best guys had awful games.
Flowers had his worst game of the year.
Flowers had his worst game of the year.
Close.
And F.A. Abagidi luckily only played 15 minutes because he was awful. And you could tell they just weren't playing him because they took him out in the first half. He didn't play for a long time because he was just struggling against Arizona State, which is very weird because we see F.A. struggle against guys his size and who are also athletic, but we usually don't see. This is the kind of roster that you kind of see him pick apart usually, but it wasn't happening. He was getting pinned. He's getting pinned down trying to post, and he does this thing where he goes behind the backboard basically, and then kind of hopes to jump out of it, and it does not work that often. And it was not working. He had 4 turnovers. So WSU had 14 turnovers. 10 of them were between Flowers and Abagidi. And
that's
Flowers 2 of 8 from 3. Took 1 2-pointer, 6 points, 6 turnovers. Did have 5 steals, but he was just struggling. And WSU took Flowers out, which they never do.
He only played 26 minutes.
They took him out.
He's normally a 36-minute guy.
They took him out.
It was just he was playing that badly.
With about 8 minutes, and then they didn't put it back in until 2. That's when WSU made the run to get back into the game.
Yes.
They
When
were
he was
down
on the bench.
They were down 8 and pulled within 1, and then they bring him back in, and we saw, he did hit a crazy 3, but like that. Other than that, like he almost turned the ball over, and when they got a steal, like it was just his worst game, and like it was just 8 of 26 on the inside, man. You got Mohamed Gay hitting 3 of 8 on twos. You got FA going 0 for 2. Noah missing inside. Bamba getting towards the rim but missing everything. 1 of 5 on twos. Like it just, they could not hit shots in the paint. They've definitely shot worse on threes. They could have shot better. I mean, at this point, it seems like I'd go back if they shoot less than 35% from 3. Like it's tough for them to win. But I mean, really, it's 10 of 33 from 3 is one thing, but 8 of 26 on twos.
Yeah,
that's brutal.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I hate to use the word inexcusable because it's like, I mean, you just, you have a bad day. Like, it's not like there's no excuse for that. I know fans love to do that stuff. I guess I just am more like, that shouldn't happen. I mean, I don't really know.
Well, Arizona
any other way to
State
say it.
Arizona State was using a zone, and we were just having trouble with that. Having trouble finding looks inside. Flowers, I said turning the ball over a lot.
Yeah.
It's.
I mean, it was depressing, man. Like,
Yeah.
I've kind of been banging the drum all year about like, hey, this team is still pretty good, and they just are getting unlucky in some respects, and also just kind of playing better than you think a lot of times. Like, I mean, I'm just like I'm trying to stay upbeat and positive, but I mean, this game was just a killer. Like, it's not just the loss, right? It's the manner. And I guess that's what, I kind of explored that in my Monday column a little bit, like trying to figure out why people are so, down on the team given just sort of like the entire context of, the last 10 years of Cougar basketball and the progress that they've made under Smith and everything else. And I mean, I guess that's part of it. The manner of the losses are just sort of devastating. I think that,
they're much more frustrating because it always seems like it's right there.
Yeah.
And it's like if only a couple of these games would go our way.
Yeah.
Like it would just be a whole different season. But it's just every time we're in this, it just goes the other way, it seems.
Yep. And so, another loss where everyone declared our NCAA tournament hopes dead, which, I still don't think is true. Now, if we go through the next 2 games this weekend, which we'll talk about, if we don't win either of those, I think it's probably safe to say that, an at-large bid barring a run to the championship of the Pac-12 tournament or something. I mean, barring that sort of a thing, I don't think there's much of a chance, but it definitely doesn't help. And I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, you look at all these losses, all these close losses, you go, well, they're not killers, but they don't help. And, they're running out of runway, man. And losing to Arizona State is, frustrating. It really shouldn't have happened, but, it's just one of those weird things that happens sometimes where, there's shooting variance and, things get weird. And, as I said in my column, if this was the NBA, you'd just go, it happens. If this was the NBA and we were just looking at the season as a whole, right? 20 some games. Well, that's like, it's a quarter of an NBA season. Again, you can look at a run of 20 some games for any team in the NBA a lot of times and just think, oh, well, they lost a bunch of close ones during that stretch. Boy, that was a bummer. But college basketball, obviously your season is so short. You got 30 games and, this team has just, really been, snake bitten and whatever other descriptor you want to use. And, so this was definitely one, that hurt. And, Arizona State can play. So, I mean, take nothing away from them in the sense that it's not like they lost to a bunch of chumps, but, and I think I would argue that, Arizona State is pretty much, underachieved all season because I don't think very much of Bobby Hurley as a coach. But, still should have won. And It's just, another in a long line of, frustrating losses that don't seem to make a lot of sense, but have, they've got explanations, right? Taking in a vacuum each game has an explanation, but man, there's just been so many of them. And I guess that's kind of the killer for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was brutal. It was a tough one. Lots of, Coug Twitter wasn't fun. Coug, any of that stuff wasn't fun. But then we had to flush it, and, the players had to flush it because, COVID scheduling. They went down to Eugene 2 days later, and they're playing again in a massive game for both teams. And again, WSU is looking good for points in the game. They start out well. They weather a storm in the first half where they go down 12. They come back, take a 5-point lead midway through the second half. And then it's just, after they missed like their 11th shot in a row, I yelled at my TV, and like Amanda must just like, she's just looking at me like, what the hell? Like, I'm just like, how can this happen again? Like, how the fuck can this happen every fucking game? Like 11 shots in a row they've missed for, they haven't had a field goal for 5 goddamn minutes. Like, how the fuck does this, like, how is it fucking possible that that just keeps fucking happening? Like these, like, just if you look at these guys' numbers, they're not this bad of shooters collectively. Like, one of them should be able to make a goddamn shot out of 11. Especially when like half of those shots are layups. One of them is a breakaway dunk that's missed. Like, what in the fuck gets into these guys? How they go through these stretches every single game where they just cannot make a shot. And the Oregon one was most frustrating because people are always like, oh, you're settling for threes. You're settling for threes. This particular stretch, they were not settling for threes. They were getting inside shots, and the threes they were taking were wide open. And they were just missing the fucking shots over and over. I think they missed 13 in a row until FA got a tip dunk. And it's just, it's so, like, it's insane. Like, how is this, how can they have, like,
it's incredible.
You can't tell me that they were doing bad things during that stretch. Like, they were getting good shots.
They were.
Yakumovsky turned into freshman Yakumovsky, missed 2 layups in a row, got his own rebound, missed another one. And then it's just like Noah Williams, who was super hot in the first half, 5-6, gets a breakaway 2-handed dunk and misses that. Like, you got Ty Roberts missing wide open 3-pointers. It's, oh my God, man. Like, it's like, it's insane. Like, just, they torpedo them, like, in the second half so many times just because they go through these stretches. And they had a stretch in the first half, too. Yeah. But when you do it in the second half, you're fucking stuck. Like, you can't recover.
And yet, even for all that, when FA gets the putback dunk, that pulls them within 2.
Yep.
And then a little bit later, next possession, then because the following Oregon possession, they had some offensive rebounds. But next WSU possession, Flowers hits a 3, and all of a sudden, you're only down by 1. Right?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. We're down by 1, 5:30 to go. And then, Oregon rips off a little 6-0 run. And
that was
then,
that.
And that was kind of that. And,
although,
kind of trade buckets a little bit. And, they go up by 9. And then you've got the crazy finish. But the funny thing was, like, okay, so I watched, I didn't, probably like a lot of people, was doing, Valentine's Day-ish stuff Monday night. So, I watched the first half and then didn't watch the second half. But I did check the score because I was like, well, maybe I'll watch it tonight. But I was getting the sense I would not be able to watch it Monday night. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to check the score because I can't avoid it forever. And then I checked, I was like, oh, fuck. And then, so today I watched, I watched the first half or watched the second half, and, I didn't come away disappointed, or I didn't come away, at least until that inbounds play. And, we could probably talk about that, but, I just like the shots they were getting were good. They were just missing them. And I don't know what else you can do. And there's been so many complaints about the offense and, what it's like someone I was talking with after the Arizona State game, because obviously everybody was super fresh after that. I was talking with Michael Sean Dugar, who's, is a Coug who covers the Seahawks for The Athletic. And, he's just like, I just want to see more creativity in the offense. And I'm like, the offense has been, pretty okay. I mean, against the lesser teams we were playing during that, that winning stretch, that winning streak, we were, scoring. I think the lowest we scored was 1.04 or something like that points per possession, which, is fine. And there were a whole bunch that were 1.1 or 1.1 or better. So they were doing what they needed to do. Now those of course were the worst teams in the conference. So, I mean, there's obviously that is some part of it, but you go and you have a bad game against Arizona State. You want to see more creativity. You want to see this. You want to see that. I want to see dribble handoff. I want to see Noah in the pick and roll. Okay, great. So against Oregon, I counted five possessions with Noah in the pick and roll. And we got 0 points out of those 5 possessions. And not to say that it's a bad play, but because I mean, maybe they just got unlucky or whatever. There was, a layup that was missed. And, I think at one point, they got a foul on the ground on one of them, but just sort of overall, it's not like it yielded results. It's just like they are trying. I saw some stuff in the second half that was, I mean, I'm not a coach. So for me, it's like, I'm not looking at it going like, wow, that's an amazing creative set that the coach did this and that. Like but I can see, the movement. I can see, more or less what they're trying to do. And it's like, man, I saw some stuff where they were trying to attack different parts of the floor. I mean, there was one where, they did a nice little screen to get Noah a post up, right? They did like a little weak side screen to get him a post up as he came across, and, they got him the ball deep, and I think he may have even drawn a foul on the ground. It's like, but they were trying stuff. They're trying stuff. It's not just high screen and roll all the time. Like, they're trying lots of stuff. And I mean, what can you do if they just don't make a shot? I just don't know. I don't know how you blame the coaching staff for being unable to manufacture buckets when they do get open shots and they just miss them all. Like, I don't know how you reconcile those two things. I mean, I guess people just need to blame someone. And it's a lot easier to be like, well, the coach should have done something, instead of just saying, well, the shot was there, they just missed it. I mean, I know that's a lot less satisfying. So, maybe that's, a big part of what it is, but, it just, I don't know, man. I'm process oriented. This, our listeners know this, and the process to me looked pretty good. They were getting good looks. It just, they just weren't going down, and Oregon's, as much as people want to go like, well, Oregon's not as good as they were. Well, I got some news for you. They're playing pretty damn good right now, except for that whatever loss to Cal that happened. You take that out of the equation. They've been playing pretty well for a while, and they're going to make the tournament. Like, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that they're going to make the tournament. So, losing to Oregon, there's no shame losing to Oregon on the road, but again, it's the manner, right? Where, it's the same thing again, and, you just end up frustrated. So I don't know, man. What other takeaways were there for you from that game?
Well, one, you have Ty Roberts playing 36 minutes, and he goes 1 of 11. And
yep.
And I can't. I'm not sure like what his defensive impact is. Like, he doesn't seem to be super negative defensively. He does seem to, sometimes gets picked on because of his size, but he seems to be fine on that. He plays really hard. He got 6 defensive rebounds this game, which is crazy for a guy his size. But
yep.
But what I see is, Flowers kind of boosted his 3-point numbers at the end, but he ended up with 23 points, which was the quietest 23 points I've ever seen, I think. But you have Flowers and Roberts play 36 minutes each, and they each turn the ball over once. And so, in total, again, you look over on the right side of the box score, you see their good turnover numbers, there's good rebound numbers. So we're winning the shot volume, right? And that's what we've been like, okay, last year we're like, they clearly want the shot volume, but they're turning the ball over too much. And it's clear that Kyle Smith was like, we need to fix this turnover situation. And so they did. They went out and got 2 guards who don't turn the ball over. But the problem is they also don't create. So they don't take risks. And that may be by direction. They may be told not to take risks because they don't want to. You know, not to be like Bonton and throw risky passes that may end up in turnovers, whatever, but sometimes hit. So they can run those pick and rolls, but how often do you see a big flash open for a bit and they just don't? They don't take the risk. They don't
won't throw it. Yep.
They just won't throw a lob or whatever. And so that because they're avoiding turnovers. It's turnover avoidance. And that's honestly why, like on KenPom, and why generally our offense is better than it is last year. Because we're just taking more shots and we're getting the shot volume. And when the shots fall, it works really well. But when they don't fall, when you're getting that volume of shots, when you're rebounding, like they're getting second and third chances because they had 22 offensive rebounds, 41% of their own shots they were grabbing the misses, which is a huge number. You know, you may have been frustrated a couple times because Oregon was getting offensive rebounds, so Oregon was only rebounding 30% of their misses, so 31%. So it's just they're getting the shot volume, but it makes it it makes it worse almost because they just miss shot after shot. And when you take 30, people get angry about missed threes. But, man, they were missing everything. Again, 14 of 40 on twos. 35%
on your twos. Like, I am way more irritated and annoyed by that than I am by the missed threes. Like, missed threes or whatever. Like, we shoot threes. That's what we do. I'm partial to the three-point shot anyway, so I'm going to make all kinds of excuses for missed threes. Like, I understand that not everybody's like that, but I will do that. But, like, 35% on twos, it's like, what the, like, it's insane. Like, dudes are so frustrating with that.
For the weekend, these 3 games, how would you have guessed that we would have shot the highest percentage of twos against Arizona?
Yeah.
41.5%. And then we go 31% against Arizona State and 35% against Oregon.
Yeah. And I don't know that you can explain it like that. Some of it you can explain, right? Terrell Roberts going 0 of 5 is like, whatever. He's 5'8", like, or whatever he is. I know he's listed 5'11", but there's no way that dude's 5'11". So whatever he is, under 5'11".
But it's Noah again. Noah starts
Noah's 3 for 11.
He starts 5 of 6 in the first half, hits a couple threes, and I mean, if you're following this team, that you had to have mixed emotions about that. I was like, this is cool. Noah is hitting shots. Is it going to be Noah keeps hitting shots, and this is going to be like Cal and Stanford weekend last year? Or is it going to be Noah feels good about himself, and he's just going to keep shooting? And it was the latter. And Noah
it was a little like it wasn't like he was jacking up a bunch of wild threes. I mean, he did shoot a couple.
But he
iffy threes.
I mean, he took 10 shots in the second half.
Sure, but how many of them, like the twos? Okay, so he goes 0 of 8 on twos. Like, I don't think there were very many twos. Like maybe a couple where I was like,
I mean, he shot some turnarounds and
I mean, there was a couple,
runners.
but there was also a missed layup. There was also a missed dunk. Like, I don't know, man.
That's the thing. Like when he is assertive, and it has not typically ended well this year.
Yeah,
and
that is true.
And I mean, if he's assertive and he's good, it's good. But in the second half, he was assertive. And he was 0 for 10. And when you have the guy who is, probably one of the top usage guys in the second half, going 0 for 10.
Yeah.
That sucks. And, I don't know what's going, like, you thought he was finally going to break out, finally going to, like, have the nice game that you've just been waiting. Like, it seems like he's got to have one eventually. And he hit a couple threes against Arizona, and you're like, okay, maybe the three's coming around. Hits a couple threes in the first half. But, you know, the next few he took were just way off, and it's just, it sucks. Like, it sucks to see him. And one thing that you and I were talking about is, and I alluded to earlier, is like, we don't have guards that are distributing the ball. We don't have guards that are setting up shots for other guys. And, you know, Flowers occasionally has had some nice moments in the pick and roll with Gay in particular, but Flowers is below 20%, just below 20% in assist rate. No one on the team is above 20% in assist rate. That is weird. I mean, WSU, I think, is near the bottom in the country in assist rate. And so, which is assists per field goal made. So we just don't have guys creating shots. And I think part of it is the turnover averse thing. But last year you had Bonton, who people thought was like a selfish player, hogging the ball, whatever. But he was also able to, you know, get into the lane and set guys up. He had a 28.7 assist rate, which was top 100 nationally. And even Noah was dishing the ball. He was 21.5%. He was higher than Flowers is this year. We haven't had a team without at least one guy, usually at least two guys. I don't know if I'm going back. It's crazy to not even have one guard or even a small forward. So we had the 2017 team, 2017 team had one guy barely over 20%. Can you guess who that was?
2016-2017.
Yeah.
Malachi Flynn?
He was on that team, but it was
wrong.
No, Malachi Flynn was on that team.
Devontae Lacey?
He was already graduated.
Okay.
You're probably going to be surprised that this guy played this late, actually.
Okay.
So it's Ike Arabu.
Now I'm looking.
Yeah! So that was the last team that we had that was, you know, but actually that team overall was good at distributing the ball. They had like their assists per field goal made as an offense was decent, was good. But you know, it's just when you have these two guys that are dominating the ball up top and just not, you know, Roberts, especially in Pac-12 play, is not getting the lane. He does have more assists in Pac-12 play, but he's shot 7 free throws, and multiple of those are late game free throws, like when he just got hacked. Like, his free throw rate is almost 0. And so he's not getting any easy buckets. He's like an incredible free throw shooter, but he just doesn't get to the line because he has to keep a space between him and the other guy, because if he's close, he's going to get his shot blocked. Like, that's just a given. Right. But these guys have low turnover rates, and that's why they're playing. You know, 13.3, 14.2. Those are incredibly low turnover rates for guards. Like, incredibly low.
Like, really, really, really low for ball-dominant guards.
Noah's is a lot lower this year, but he's also not He's not
a primary ball handler.
Yeah, he's not doing what he did last year, and he's not playmaking. There are really not really any playmakers on this team. And that's why it's so hard to get out of these fucking stretches. Like, you just don't have a guy who can draw the defense dish off for an easy dunk. Like, how often last year did we see FA get easy dunks because Noah or Bonton drew defense and they just slipped it off? We just don't see that very often this year.
You got to have somebody who can put pressure on the rim, and we have two guards who cannot. And I think that's I think it's worth. It's probably time to declare that the small guard experiment is kind of a mess, and that there is, we concluded that back in November that it was going to be a problem, and against certain teams it's less of a problem, right? But when you play Arizona, when you play Oregon, when you play USC, the first time around. The fact that you're running two guards out there that are 6 foot and under, and I know people tell me Michael Flowers is 6'1". I don't think Michael Flowers is 6'1". So you're running out two guards who are 6 foot and under, and neither one of whom can get to the rim, like ever. Each one of them has taken 2 to 3 times as many threes as twos. They cannot get to the rim. I think Michael Flowers, I was looking at hoop math, not too long, like earlier today. I think, 15% or something of his shots have come at the rim, which is an extraordinarily low number. And so it really gets exposed against teams with, your upper echelon athletes at guard. That's what you saw against Oregon. As you saw, Oregon's for all of their problems that they've had at times this year, they are still, full of 4-star, 5-star guys. They go, I think their shortest guard is 6'2" or 6'3". And you saw that. And same thing against Arizona. Arizona State was less, but I just think that so much of what people think is problematic about the offense is really driven by the fact that we just don't, we're playing two guards for 35 minutes a game who cannot get to the rim. And that just compounds so many issues. If you can't get to the rim, what else are you going to do? Right? You're going to shoot threes. That's what you do.
And when you're a 6 foot guard and the guy guarding you is 6'3", you have to shoot a 25 footer instead of a 23 footer.
Right.
Like you cannot, you're going to have to shoot a more difficult shot to get a clean look. And so even those shots become harder.
Yeah. I mean, last year, Isaac Bonton's 6'3", right? Like you could see the difference that there was in him getting his shot off versus Flowers and Roberts.
And you could say probably stronger than, a little more thick than these guys too.
For sure. Able to get to the rim.
And Isaac was, not good inside the arc. Like
he got better as the year went on.
He got better as the year went on, but it was his shot selection was kind of the primary culprit. But again, he was making plays for others, and they're not doing that. I don't really have much qualms with like Flowers. Like if Flowers is here, and then they also have a playmaking guard, Flowers is amazing. Because Flowers he's shooting well, he's very efficient. If he's your 2 guard, that's a perfect 2 guard.
Yes.
But he's playing the 1, and Roberts is playing the 2 most of the time.
Right.
And so they're he's just not. He doesn't have that skill set in this league to consistently make plays for others. And you've seen his kind of possessions have shot up in Pac-12 play because honestly, he's got to take the shot because he's not finding it for the other people. And luckily,
I don't think there's a solution either.
Yeah,
right.
I don't think so. These are the guys we have. These are who they are. Bomba's not going. Yeah, Bomba's not going to suddenly get better. Like we hoped he would.
I mean, I guess,
but
there's no guard on the bench that could take his spot. That could take Roberts' spot. I guess you could go like you did against Arizona State when we went. Obviously, it was Flowers that got benched in that game. So you went. It was Roberts and Williams, Bamba, and then 2 bigs or something like that.
Well, that's what
maybe you could do that.
That's what they went.
But you can't go rapping Koulibaly.
Yeah.
Like those guys can't play.
I mean, Koulibaly has been scratched 100 times in a row, so I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not even sure what's going on. With him.
He's not in the plan anymore.
Yeah, he's not.
It appears
he's not there anymore. Yeah. So and honestly, that's it's what we wanted them to do in fucking December, and it's kind of what I'd like to see. I don't know, because are we running with Ty and another transfer guard, or with Ty and Miles Rice next year? Is that where is our starting backcourt?
I don't know, man. I just think I just think it's so painfully obvious that you can't run those two little guards out. And so, like, even so, I was
and especially
posting-
because sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I was editing and posting Bryce's transfer story. You know, Bryce has kind of his wish list of guys, interesting guys he thinks might be available for transfer. And it's like, there's a couple of them, they're like 6 feet tall. And I'm like, nah,
Yep.
I'm not interested in another 6 foot. I don't fucking care how good he is.
Unless
I'm
it's
not
that
interested in
dude
another
from
6 foot
Oral
tall.
Roberts. I'll take him.
Yeah. But it's just like, I'm not interested anymore. You know, maybe Miles Rice turns out to be great. You know,
But he's also not playing this year.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's tough to say. I mean, maybe they just thought they could get by without playing him.
Well, I think that one of the big
then eventually
issues-
you get so deep that you're not gonna burn his red shirt, right? So I don't know. I have no idea.
And one of the issues, like Roberts comes in, he was like a 46% 3-point shooter at Division II at California, San Diego. He's shooting 32% on threes. That is not acceptable.
Well, it's tougher when the guys challenging your shot are 6'3", 6'4",
Like when
6'5",
you're
right?
shooting
And
as
not
many as he does,
6'1".
and he's like not producing points in other ways. Like if you're shooting, you know, Flowers is fine. He's 45% on his twos. He's 38% on his threes. That's for a guard. That's perfect. That's where you want to be.
Yeah, it's fine.
But 32% is, I think, probably the coaching staff would probably admit is lower than they expected him to shoot. And then they're getting Noah, who's shooting 22%, who they're probably at least hoping he'd shoot 30. You know, and
Noah's offensive rating in conference play is 82.
Ugh. That's bad.
8-2.
And that's come up because he had a 98 against Oregon.
I mean, for people like, okay, so I mean, I imagine a lot of you listen to the podcast.
Noah's effective.
If you don't listen to us all the time, just trust us. 82 is really bad. 100 is average. That's like 20% worse than the average player. If that helps conceptualize it. It's bad. It's real bad.
His effective field goal percentage in conference play is 33%.
Yes.
That's when you get 1.5 credit for 1.5 credit for a 3-pointer.
Right.
33%.
I mean, if you and I were doing what we used to do for Basketball Prospectus or ESPN, when we used to write the previews and we would just look at stat profiles of players and whatever, like we would just go, oh my God, that guy fucking sucks. Like, have you seen this guy? This guy's taking like 25% of the shots and he's like, his effective field goal is 33%. What is going on? Like that's,
if you had no context, well, you'd also look at his previous, well, like we would look at his previous season, like what is going, like what happened to this player?
What the hell?
How did he shoot?
He's shooting 34% on twos. He's shooting 34% on twos and 20% on threes. And it's like, what, like, why is this guy taking so much? Why is he, you'd be like, why is he even playing? We'd be saying, why is this guy even playing? Like, this guy should down transfer. I'm not saying Noah should do any of that, but
I mean, you would look at his profile, you'd probably like he's definitely like a defensive guy.
Yeah, probably defensive specialist.
But you wouldn't expect a defensive specialist to shoot that many shots, right?
Right. That's exactly right.
And you look, his assist rate in conference play is 14.6, and last year was 21.4. He's 33% less often assisting on other other things. He's drawing fouls at a good rate, but
not shooting fouls.
But not shooting free throws as well.
That's the thing. He's drawing fouls, but they're not shooting fouls.
They're not shooting fouls. And plus, even when he gets to the line, he's significantly worse free throw shooter than he was last year. And, last year he shot 40% on his twos. This year, 34%. This is all in conference play. Yeah. And 37% in conference play on threes, 20% this year. Like, it's baffling. And there's no way the coaching staff could have planned for this drop-off.
No.
In a guy who was, like, potentially an all-conference player coming in the season. And it sucks. I'm not trying to like bag on him because it probably sucks worse for him than anything. And I know he works his ass off.
Definitely sucks worse for him.
Like
no doubt.
And he works his ass off. he's one of those guys, chip on his shoulder, trying to get better. Like, there's no better evidence than that than how he improved his shot from his freshman to sophomore year. But then with him, like, everything's got to be right with that shot, and it's just not been right. And it's so frustrating. It's a bummer to watch. And, you know, he's only a junior, so maybe he can turn it back around next year, and he's got another year after that. But it's to the point where it's like he cannot be a major part of the offense. Like, it just can't happen. You know, like it's detrimental to the team if he's taking a lot of shots when you're shooting that poorly. You know, and that's why it was like catching lightning in a bottle in that first half. And literally, like, WSU would have been getting run off the court if Noah didn't have, like, his best half of the season.
Right.
But then in the second half, it was like one of his worst halves of the season. Like,
yeah. I mean, so to recap, you've got one guard who is scoring pretty well, can really shoot, but really can't create for other people, can't get to the rim. His best attribute is shooting threes and not turning the ball over. Then you've got another guard who is not doing either of those things, can't get to the rim either, also is not making very many threes, and also is not creating for other people. And then you've got a third guard on the floor who is an offensive liability just in general. That's your three guards that you're running out there right now. And people want this offense. Kyle Smith should drop better plays. Like what the fuck? Like what is he supposed to do? I don't know. I mean, okay, they're supposed to put him in a better position to score. I mean, I guess, but like, I don't know. Do you see all the missed layups? I see all the missed layups. Like, I don't know, man.
Like, if you want to criticize them,
if you get a dunk.
If you want to criticize them, what you can criticize them on is the roster construction. Like,
yes, that's that is valid.
That's a valid criticism because
he put together a roster with two miniature guards,
which was. I remember when it happened. When they first started Roberts at the start of the year, we're like, this seems to go against a lot of the things that he generally believes. Yep.
Yes, it does.
Because
he typically likes longer, bigger guards.
When the year before, our guards were our 1 and 2 were 6'3" Bonton and 6'5" Noah Williams.
Yep.
And then what's
crazy about it is our defense hasn't suffered. Like, that's what's wild.
Our defense is
that
just
is
as
the
good
most
as it
wild
was.
thing.
It just better. Our defense is better than it was last year, and that's why that's why I'm not like Roberts. Like, must be playing well in defense. Like, I mean, he's got quick hands.
Yeah.
He doesn't like. He's not a stopper, but he's good. He's a good team defender. He's a ball hawk. Like, all that stuff. So he's not detrimental, but there's a point when offensively it is becoming a detriment. And this is actually not the part where I expected it to be a huge detriment. And this is where it is. It's just because we cannot effectively run some of the things we want to do. And people will be like, well, dump it to the big guys. It's, well, neither F.A. or Mo have shown a consistent ability to score off the block.
Yeah. Neither one of them has a real post game.
Yeah, like Mo's gonna
our one guy who's got a post game hasn't played in a month and a half. So
yeah, and he was struggling in the post
early
in the season too.
Absolutely.
He was giving the ball away all the time. But although I think he was coming around when he got hurt, which is so goddamn frustrating. But hopefully he can get back at some. But apparently he's medically cleared. It's just when he feels comfortable. Honestly, with an eye, I probably never feel comfortable.
It's tough, man. You start moving, your eye starts throbbing. Like, I get it, man. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think there's anything.
How did we get it, Jeff? We weren't good at. We won't talk that much about. But like, we're just going to be mad. Like, we're just going to be disappointed. We're not. It's 53 minutes in. We haven't even talked about the games that are coming up.
I know. Maybe we should take a break.
All right, we'll take a break, and then we'll talk about what's coming up next week, this weekend, and we'll talk about the women's hoops team, who had quite a weekend, a good weekend that started out very strange. And so we'll be right back.
back.
Well, Jeff, I definitely needed a beer after this men's hoops weekend, but I want to know what you're drinking.
Yeah, I am having the Noisy Boy IPA from Crux Fermentation Project. It's a West Coast IPA. It's delicious. Very much enjoying it. It's got that piney, resiny taste to it. In fact, the only thing I can complain about with this beer is that the can is purple and gold. So that's now the purple is kind of a lavender. It's got kind of a I don't know what the inspiration was for the can design. It definitely looks kind of like an old like a comic book kind of style. It's got kind of a comic book font and little dots like like
So-
the comic print. So is Noisy Boy a comic book reference that I'm not aware of?
Well, why would I know?
I don't know. You know stuff. You're a smart guy. You know things.
So I gotta say, I pulled it up on Tapped, and so I have an inkling as to where you bought this, because the very first check-in,
Of course.
they said purchased at Costco.
Costco. Yep. Because I happened to be there and I was like, yeah, that looks good. I'll get one. I'll get that.
This is so this is becoming the premier podcast on reviewing beers from
Costco beers. It's so true. It is so true. My side piece, though, I can tell you, I did not get at Costco. So
Well, what's your side
That's,
piece then?
it's a Rogers.
Rogers.
Pilsner.
Well, you could have gotten at Costco,
Yes.
I think. No, actually, they don't sell Rogers.
Not
at
at my
Costco.
Costco.
No, I don't
Not
think
at
they
my
sell
Costco.
Rogers at Costco. The Pilsners
sure I
don't
bought that
sell
one
well
at
with the
Winco.
Costco crowd.
No, it's all IPAs.
Oh, you got it at
all the time
Winco.
at Costco. Yeah, I think I got it at Winco.
I remember
I haven't been. I haven't been to
Winco-
Rainier Growlers in a few weeks. So
Winco was my first place where I started exploring with craft beer. I remember my roommate when I was a junior, and he was a little bit older than me, and so he turned 21 before me, and so when we went to Winco to do our grocery shopping, he would get the beer, and so we would just try different things, and there was nothing crazy back then. It was like all the Black Bee Porter, Blue Moon we thought was like crazy, but then like one that I really remember is Coeur d'Alene Brewery Huckleberry Ale, which they would have occasionally, which Coeur d'Alene Brewery doesn't exist anymore. I think there's another brewery that makes the beer, but that was like my first like favorite craft beer was Coeur d'Alene Brewery Huckleberry Ale, and it was Winco. Shopping that beer selection at Winco.
Yeah.
So shout out to Winco.
yeah, it's pretty much all IPAs all the time there for the most part too. But they do
that's what
tend to
sells.
have Georgetown beers there. So actually, you know what the funny thing is? The place where I get Pilsners most of the time is at Walmart. Like a lot of times they have Freem Pilsner and I'm trying to remember. So I got another Lager Pilsner there. Good, decent Lager Pilsner there one time. So yeah, it's,
Freem Pilsner is
I don't
always
know
a
what
good
it
go-to.
is. Yeah, yes, it is. I agree. So yeah, it's I tend to be a convenient shopper, Craig, and Costco is convenient to me because I'm there like twice a week. So
That's too many times. Too
shopping
often
for my
Costco.
kids, buying food. What about you?
Well, so I'm having a triple IPA, and it is Earth versus triple IPA from Wayfinder and Ruse Brewing in Portland. And I had a few reasons for this beer, but the first reason I'll say is it's triple IPA season. And Jeff, do you know why it is triple IPA season? Why are so many breweries releasing triple IPAs this month?
Do they have hops they have to use up or something?
No.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Come on, Jeff. This is you got some things to learn as a craft beer nerd.
I do.
To
All
get
right,
some
so help me
craft
out.
beer street cred. Have you ever heard of the beer Pliny the Younger?
Oh yeah.
Not
Yes,
Pliny the Elder.
I've heard of both of them.
Okay, so Pliny the Younger. What do you know about Pliny the Younger?
I've had it. I don't
No, you
remember
have
much
not.
else.
No, you
I
have
have not. Okay,
You have
I've
not
only
had
had Pliny the Elder.
Yes, there
I've had
is.
Pliny the Elder.
If you've had Pliny the Younger, you were incredibly fortunate, and
Okay.
you probably would have had to do it intentionally.
Okay. All right. So no, I have not.
So
And
Pliny the Elder is
What should I know about Pliny the Younger?
Pliny the Elder is a double IPA, as you know.
Yes.
Russian River used to distribute in Washington, no longer does. Ended about 2012, I think. So Pliny the Younger is a triple IPA that Russian River only releases in February for about a couple weeks. They'll release it at their tap room, and then they'll send it to all their various accounts. They'll get a keg or 2 or 3, depending on how much Russian River beer they typically sell. Part of the reason that Russian River pulled out of Washington is Washington's distribution system prevented them from choosing where their beer went. So, like the distribution company could just send Pliny the Younger to, Total Wine or something. So and they want some more control. They didn't have control in Washington. That's why they pulled out. So Pliny the Younger only released a couple weeks a year. I've had it 1 year. I was in San Diego. I booked a business trip specifically because I knew they would have kegs of Pliny the Younger in San Diego around that time. And so I was fortunate enough to I booked a Airbnb right next to Toronado, San Diego. Rest in peace, no longer open. Because I figured if anyone's gonna have a surprise keg, they would. As I'm riding in the car, in the Uber from my hotel to my Airbnb for the weekend, there's another bar. Which bar was it? Shit, maybe it was Blind Lady Ale House. It was they were doing a contest, basically. Like if you donate to a charity, you have a chance to win 2 tickets to their Pliny the Younger tasting on Sunday. Which, like, usually, so the Toronado people had told me when they have an announced keg of Pliny the Younger, it takes them 33 minutes to sell it out because that's how long it takes them to pour the beer. So people freak out. People wait. Like, I've had friends that have went down to Russian River Brewing to get it, and you wait in line for like 8 hours to have it. Because when they released Pliny the Younger the first time, like, no one had ever seen a triple IPA before. Like, it was the craziest thing. And so when I was down there, while I'm in the car, I find out I had won the tasting. And so I was like, hell yeah, I know this weekend I'm going to get to try Pliny the Younger for the first time. But they told me, you have 2 tickets, you cannot drink. So they each come with a pour of Pliny the Younger and a pour of Pliny the Elder. But you cannot have all 4 pours. Like, we're not going to let you do that.
You have to share it with somebody.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to go to Toronado tonight. This is a craft beer bar, a lot of beer nerds, and I'm going to make a friend, and I'm going to I'm going to say, hey, do you want to go? Do you want the other Pliny the Younger tasting? Well, as soon as I get into my Airbnb, I set my stuff down. I look on Untapped for Toronado. Someone has checked in Pliny the Younger. So they do 2 announced kegs and they do 1 secret keg. This was their secret keg. So I literally threw my shit down and ran over to the bar, got a pour of Pliny the Younger. That was actually when I got to taste it first. And then I made a friend named Jerry, and who's still my friend to this day, who I went back to San Diego many times and like visited him. He knows Amanda. We know his wife. Like, he's like a very good friend now. But, we sat there. They had Pliny on tap. It lasted all night because no one knew it was there. And then, I think it lasted like 7 hours or something from when they tapped
awesome.
it. And so I had 2 pours, and that was all they would let you do was 2. And then, but they had all these other crazy beers on tap. So I was like, once I saw the list, I'm like, oh my God, I'm definitely going to find some person that's going to be like, so yeah, Jerry ended up going with me. He was so hungover from something the night before, because this was Friday, then it was Sunday. Saturday night, he went out and got drunk. He was so hungover, I ended up drinking all 4 of the beers anyway. And then I got on a plane, super drunk, and flew home. But so that was Playing the Younger, which great, classic, clean West Coast IPA, the OG. This one is very in vein of Playing the Younger. It's very similar to it. It does great balance. It's a clean IPA, not hazy. Very West Coasty. Tons of grapefruit. Good bitterness, because 10% IPA, it's going to be sweet. It's balanced with the bitterness. It's wonderful. If you can't get Playing the Younger, if you can find this beer, it's pretty similar. That's just me. I want to talk about. That's why this trip. So you'll see a lot of Washington breweries. So Browers started a thing. Once Russian River left, a lot of Browers started like a triple IPA festival. So like every Washington brewery would make a triple IPA, and they just have like 30 triple IPAs on draft for a weekend or whatever. And so I don't know if they're doing that this year because of COVID or whatever, but they've done it in the past. So a lot of Washington breweries will brew triple IPAs around this time, and then other breweries will, just in honor of Playing the Younger. So it's triple IPA season. I don't drink triple IPAs very often, but I will definitely drink them in February because it's triple IPA season. So,
well, man,
that was very long.
I'm just going to have to go out and find one of those, or find a Boneyard Notorious. That's my favorite triple IPA.
Yep. Boneyard Notorious is a very good one as well. Although I've heard there's been some batch variation recently where they are always hitting it. All right. So that was a long beer segment. But that's what people come here for. They endure all the Coug talk so they can hear the 10 minutes of beer that we talk about. So yeah, let's look ahead. The men's hoops for the weekend. As tough a road trip as the toughest road trip there is this year in the Pac-12, and historically a very tough road trip. UCLA on Thursday, and USC on Sunday, while I'm at my friend's wedding in North Carolina. I can't believe she scheduled it that way. How dare she?
What was she thinking?
Oh, and then by the way, I'm going to get it on Friday or on Thursday about 5. And I've clocked a bar in Chapel Hill to watch the game at 11 p.m. I figured a bar in Chapel Hill have a UCLA game on.
Yeah.
I had to find one that's open till 2 a.m. because the game starts at 11 p.m. in North Carolina.
Yeah, it starts at 8 o'clock.
Yeah. So I had to I found a bar. Their whole page is like people watching college basketball. So I was like, that's pretty cool. So I got a bar to watch the UCLA game on Thursday, but it's going to be a tough one.
Yep.
UCLA is pretty damn good.
Yes, they are. And it's funny, they're good in a way that's, that's different from Arizona.
Yes.
They're not huge inside, but they are, they run their wings. They're 2 through 4.
They're wing heavy.
Like all about, they're 2 through 4 are all about 6'7". It's Jaquez, it's Bernard, it's Juzang. They all run 6'7". And then they put, and then they pair that usually with one big, Cody Riley or Miles Johnson, one of those two guys. David Singleton, who comes in and plays a bunch.
Hits a bunch of threes.
He's 6'4". Really the only short guy is Tiger Campbell. And he's also, incredibly annoying for, being that little point guard. He basically at 5'11", he does what, we need our guards to do, which is create for other people. And so he's a heck of a lot of fun, and they just, I had been kind of thinking I think we match up pretty well there. I'm doubting, I'm doubting that because of all the size that they've got at the wing position is what is sort of getting me. Now, maybe the fact that Tiger Campbell is 5'11", is helpful. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I feel like our bigs, can take advantage of their front court just a little bit. This strikes me as the kind of game that Muhammad Gay could really go off and have a really excellent game. He's just been, we spent the first 45, 50 minutes of the podcast talking about all the things that have gone wrong. He is something that's going right. He is getting better every week. He had a couple plays against Oregon where one was an offensive rebound tip in that he had. He's just so inexperienced, not just, obviously at the college level, but, as a high schooler too. He wasn't, hadn't really played a lot of competitive basketball, and, he's extremely talented, and you just see that with the improvement that he makes. So, he strikes me as a guy who could have a big game, FA as well.
Well,
UCLA is real good, but
I think Mohammed could, he's quick enough where he could handle Juzang. Because that's probably who he would check. Or I could see us honestly playing a zone. Which would probably not be a good idea, but especially if Singleton's in the game. But
they don't shoot a ton of threes and they don't make them at a ridiculous rate. So
it's crazy that Tiger Campbell is actually hitting a good percentage at this point. But I don't like. UCLA typically only plays one of their bigs at a time. They're gonna rotate Riley and Johnson. Johnson's been a huge addition for them from Rutgers. Because last year when Riley wasn't on the floor, they were so tiny and so easy to exploit for a lot of teams. But having Johnson in there so they can rotate and always have a big in there.
Yeah. And he's a rim protector too. I mean, that's the thing that he gives them that they didn't have before.
And the thing about UCLA is Jaquez is kind of Juzang is definitely the go-to type guy, but he's not so dominant. They have other guys that can go off in any game, particularly Bernard and Jaquez, but even Campbell at times. And Singleton can bury threes. He doesn't shoot a lot, but when he does, he can get real hot. And obviously, Kyman can come off the fucking bench and annoy the hell out of us, So they have a lot of just play. They're not necessarily playmakers for themselves, but they have guys that can get their own shot. They are playmakers for themselves, not for others, but they have guys that can get their own shot. Yeah. And so they're a tough guard. So, when you're looking at the lineup, so Ty's going to guard Tiger, and then Flowers is going to have to check Juzang or Bernard.
Bernard, probably Bernard.
He's given up 6 to 7 inches to. And then you're going to have Noah's going to have Juzang. And so you're going to definitely they're going to be looking to funnel these guys inside to the rim protectors, which is not a bad strategy, honestly. And that's always what they do. So that, and UCLA, this is not going to be a game of assists because UCLA sucks at, they're one-on-one play a lot too. But what they do really well is they don't turn the ball over. So that, it's hard to turn a team over that is as stingy as they are. That is something that we have relied on as a defense more than last year. And that is not something that they do. So I don't see us, maybe we'll tick them up a little bit, but this is not a game where we're going to dominate the turnovers like we have in the last few games. And so you're going to have to, hopefully our size can limit some of their offensive rebounding. They're a pretty good offensive rebounding team. And then hopefully you just defend. They're not a great shooting team. So a lot of their efficiency comes from just shot volume, right?
Yeah, they just have dudes who can get their own shots.
Yeah.
Their turnover percentage is so low because you go, okay, Juzang's assist rate is 11.5, Bernard's is 10.7, and Jaquez is 14. Those are those are so low that you would almost expect to get something higher by accident. But the only way that you get it that low is if you are rarely passing. And so that's what they've got is they've got guys who create their own shot. They don't need passes to get in a scoring position. And, they isolate guys and they use their size to find advantageous matchups and then they go. So,
yeah, you'll definitely see Jaquez post up and Juzang post up in this game. Like they definitely like to post those guys up. Like, just because they're typically taller, especially Juzang is typically taller than the guy that's guarding him.
Right. And you do have Campbell, who will create for other people, but he never turns the ball over, which is wild for a dude who passes and creates as much as he does to only turn the ball over 13% of his possessions is kind of bananas. But he's special in that way. He's a fun dude.
But again,
I love watching him play.
But we have great shooting defense, at both 3-point range and which is, kind of can be iffy, but we defend inside really well. So we could force them into a bad shooting night. We're going to have to clean the glass though. We're going to have to clean the glass, which we have not done very well. Like it's just, that's defensively. Offensively, UCLA isn't great. Like they're just solid at a lot of defensive categories, and that results in a very good defense.
Yep. And they're just tough, man. They, it's, you and I are both sort of loath to, ascribe psychological factors to analysis or whatever. But the reality is they're tough. When I talk with our basketball coach at my high school, and we sort of like talk about, the things we enjoy about basketball. And one thing we enjoy is UCLA because, he always just says like, they are a reflection of their coach. Like they are, Mick Cronin has changed the attitude of that program, the perception of that program, and they are just really, really tough. They're tough as nails. So, now I think we're really tough too. So, I'm excited to see what we can do. I'm certainly not expecting a win, but, I think we will, I think we'll play them super tough and, who knows? Maybe this is the game where we finally hit some shots and, having Tiger Campbell on the floor, gives us a guy that we can actually shoot over for once.
Yep. And then you go try to get revenge on USC, who they probably should have beaten in Pullman. Again, USC is pretty big. Not as big as UCLA, but you got Drew Peterson who gave us trouble last game just because he just made absolutely ridiculous shots because he's just tall and can apparently hit 1-foot fadeaways like Dirk Nowitzki. I don't know.
Not a fluke though. I mean, he's shooting 50% on threes or 50% on twos this year. He's not a fluke.
Yeah, he's a tough guy.
He's legit.
Again, like they don't have a guy that dominates their offense. They have a lot of guys. Ethan Anderson's only 6'1", but he's built like a freaking linebacker. So he's a tough guard. He's kind of like they again are a team that doesn't have a guy playmaking for other guys that much, but they do kind of.
Yep.
They have a bunch of guys that are kind of decent at it, and so they, Peterson and Ellis and Anderson do it enough to where they're like not one guy is doing it. It's just because there's not one guy on this team that dominates the ball a lot. They move it around quite a bit. And we held up pretty well defensively against them last time. Offense was a struggle, particularly when they were playing Flowers and Roberts at the same time. And you might remember, like, down the stretch in the second half when they played better, they were rotating Flowers and Roberts and not playing them at the same time. And so I'll be curious to see if they use that same strategy from the start against USC.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be curious to see if they do it against UCLA, too.
Yeah.
Like, both games. UCLA would seem to be even more prime for that given the fact that their second guard is going to be 6'7". So yeah, I'm with you. USC feels like the more beatable of the two teams, but at the same time, USC just beat UCLA without Isaiah Mobley, by the way. They played him at home, beat him by 3. Isaiah Mobley didn't even play. So, USC is very good as well.
Do we know what his status is?
I just looked it up real quick. He's supposed to play against Washington on Thursday. So
Damn.
he's supposed to be, I know, damn it. He's supposed to be back. So, it's, USC's tough. I mean, we knew this run was going to be, the gauntlet, and, one game down and didn't get it. So, hopefully we're prepared. And I don't know. I mean, I still think we can beat both these teams. Like I know that, sort of the in thing to do, as the kids would say, is to declare that the season's over and these guys suck. But I just, I can't do that. I won't do that. I mean, they can beat both of these teams. But it's going to take, it's going to take something a little special. It can take something a little special to pull it off.
Yeah. Going to need a wild result. But, that's
Yep.
the weekend coming up. And then now let's look at, what the WSU women did this past week. They also had 3 games. That first game, so I'm not going to say much about it because I didn't want to talk about it.
I think we talked about it last week too, didn't we?
No, because we hadn't recorded
the game
yet.
had already happened, didn't it?
No.
No?
Did we record on Wednesday?
I think so, but maybe not.
No, I'm pretty sure that it had not happened.
Okay. Well, let's just pretend it did.
So, yeah. And then, but then on the weekend, I mean, it's so funny. We have this one basketball team that cannot win close games to save their life. And then we have this other basketball team that just fucking always wins the close games, no matter what, it seems. And so
crazy.
That UCLA game was nuts. Like, you get down to the end and they're down by 2. They have 2 shots at it. They end up with their second shot. They have a baseline out of bounds. 7 seconds left. They get to Charlize. Charlize, she, tries this fadeaway airballs it, but somehow it ends up in her sister's hands, and she throws up just nothing. Like, she said in the interview afterwards, it's completely lucky. Throws it up. Goes in, gets fouled, hits the free throw, Cougs win. Like, what on earth? And what was super encouraging about that game, and I think has been the story often this season, is that they actually were able to overcome a really bad game from Charlize and win against a solid team. Another bubble team. That's what made it such a big game. Like, UCLA got them already. If they got swept by UCLA, that gives the committee a reason to pick UCLA over WSU. But now they've beaten UCLA, and so that can't be the reason now. And so, but Charlize had one of her worst games, couldn't buy a bucket, but Crystal stepped up, had one of her best games as a Coug, 22 points, game-winning shot, bunch of clutch buckets. And they came through and won, and that was a huge win, and because they're right there on the bubble. I haven't seen what Charlie Cream has got today. If he's got them in there, let's look at it. Yeah, he's got that. So Charlie Cream must think that Oregon loss really did a number on them, because he had them over Oregon. He had them in the last 4 in. He has, so his last 4 buys and last 4 in, he has Colorado, who WSU beat in Colorado, Gonzaga, who WSU beat at Gonzaga, and Oregon State, who WSU beat. And then he's got WSU in the first 4 out. And I think it's all because they lost by 53 to fucking Oregon, which is whatever. if you watch that game, you knew like that thing was over in the first quarter, and no one gave a shit after that. Like it was like whatever. So they came back in the USC game. Damn near blew that one. Looked like they were in control. Just stopped score. They scored 1 point, I think, in the final like 7 minutes or something.
They were up by 20 early.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they were up by 20. USC kind of whittled it away, just kindly, slowly worked into it. And then by the end, USC had their best player, Jenkins, a layup to tie, and she missed it. And that's where this close game luck comes into play, man. Like the best player on the team misses a lay, and they get the rebound, they hit a free throw. That's after Charlize had a great first half, didn't do much in the second half, missed 2 free throws that could have iced the game. And then Bella hits 1 and 2 when she gets fouled on the rebound. USC turns the ball over, and then the game's over. So yeah, it's they got through. That's how they win. That's why their net rating is way worse than the guys like the men's team's net rating. Is this because while the men's team loses a bunch of close games and then wins when they win by bigger margins. The women's team, when they lose by big margins, and when they win, they win by the slightest of margins. So they came through in this 3-game set, 2-1 with a negative 49 point differential. There's the Mariners would be proud of that. So now they got a big home series. This could legit, like they could, I'm not saying could break their break their tournament resume, but they could make their tournament resume this weekend. Arizona State's a bubble team. Charlie Cream on ESPN has them as his last 4 byes. So that's, they're like the 62nd team in. And then Arizona is a top 10 team. So you have a chance to beat another bubble team. Look what we could do against another team of similar, that you're comparing us against. And then you have a chance to, get a truly, truly signature win. They have some big wins. They have the win at Colorado, the win at Gonzaga, beating even Miami in a neutral site was pretty good. Winning at USC was pretty good, but they don't have the truly like top 10 signature win that they had a multiple of last year, including Arizona. So getting that, and that's what got them in last year. If they're able to get Arizona, which they took to the wire in Tucson, if they could pick off Arizona, then they would be sitting pretty. If they split the weekend and they give Arizona a good fight and they beat Arizona State, they're kind of probably similar to where they were when the weekend started. Because I don't think Arizona State's quite I think they're like 35 or so in net. So it's not like a huge win, but it's definitely a quality win, and that would look good on the resume. The big one, if you could knock it, because the next weekend, the final weekend of the regular season, you go, and also being said, WSU currently sits in 4th in the Pac-12, which that just through optics, that would look nice to be 4th in the Pac-12, and that would mean you win probably at least 2 of these final 4 games. You probably would have to play Stanford in the semifinal, but you get a better team in your first game to try to beat to get another quality win. You'd probably get another bubble team that you'd play against in that quarterfinal. And just, that optic of being 4th in the conference in one of the best conferences. To be 4th is a good thing. And so if they can, if they beat Arizona State and they beat Cal, there's a good chance that they finish 4th. So winning at least beating Arizona State this weekend is huge. Because I'm sorry, until further notice, you got to kind of write off that Stanford game as a big loss because they've never beaten them and they've never come close. At least not recently. So that Cal game should be a win. Cal's very bad, but that's also not helping your resume. It can only hurt. your resume. So the big weekend. This is your last 2 home games. 2 big chances to solidify your resume. Charlize had a big game against Colorado. Man, she's due for some more. Like, I want to see her go off. You know, they've been able to win at times without her, but these are 2 very good teams. They're going to need Charlize to shoot well and score well and just be her assertive self. So it'll be a big weekend for them and interesting to watch. So they're on Friday and Sunday. Friday Arizona State, Sunday Arizona. Last home weekend of the season already. It's crazy.
Yeah, they just really need that signature win, right? Like that's the big thing. And that was the thing that really powered them into the tournament last year was, you know, I mean, they had some big wins over some really quality teams, and the committee loves that stuff. Like we have learned that over the years, that the committee loves if you show that you can beat really good teams, they can overlook some you know, sort of crappy losses. You know, that's sort of the biggest thing that, you know, both teams are sort of struggling with to some degree right now. You know, you mentioned the women's net rating. Well, they haven't, the net rating is opponent adjusted. So they don't have, they've won a lot of close games. So that's not really helping their net rating. And then they don't have, you know, any signature wins over really good teams. So
well,
those
they have,
two
you know,
things are kind of keeping
their best win is over number 26 Gonzaga on the road.
Yeah, which is a solid win, but not on par with, you know, beating Arizona last year or beating UCLA last year, right? Yeah. When UCLA was really, really good. So
and then losing by 53 to number 11 in the net, Oregon looks real bad.
Yes, that does not.
As I've heard a lot of people say, is like, just don't give the committee a reason to leave you out, and that could be a reason. Yeah. Like, oh well, you played one really good team and they beat the heck out of you. Like, and so that's why this Arizona game is big. They got to show out against them. They, you know, even if they don't win, they got to prove that they can. You know, look, we're not that team that lost, but so it's a big weekend, very, very big weekend for women's hoops. You know, as big as the men's weekend. Just opportunities to possibly even bigger, because you know they're actually right on the cusp of getting in, while the men's team is probably pretty far at this point. So the big weekend. Both teams with opportunities in hoops. That didn't work out. You know, the opportunities themselves didn't work out so great if you're talking about the 2 top teams that they played last week. And then for the men, for any of the teams they played. So hopefully we have better vibes, better GFC vibes this weekend, because we could use them. Because I was yelling at my TV a lot on Monday, and I could feel myself getting pretty goddamn frustrated with the basketball season. So I'd like to just get rewarded a bit for my faith and my patience. Like, let's get some big wins. That would be great. But I guess that's it. That's all. You know, if you're gonna, I had someone ask me if you already subscribe, you should subscribe. If you've already rated us 5 stars and left a comment, you should do that. If you already follow both of us on Twitter, I'm at the Craig Powers, Jeff's at Pod versus Everyone. You know, if you already follow me on Instagram, even I'm at Craig W Powers. If you've done all of that, just tell a friend about the podcast, maybe. Yeah, just tell a friend. And
friends let friends listen to good podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, or kind of average podcasts that you know.
I mean, let's be honest, pretty shitty podcasts, but at least we're entertaining, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. We killed it. We killed the time. We're great to fall asleep to. Great to fall asleep to.
Yes.
All right. So, Jeff, I guess with all that being said, thank you, Randy England, at Randy England Music on Instagram, as always, for our music. And, with that, I'll say go Cougs.
Go Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Get fucking vaccinated.
Good job.